What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again with another Moon Knight review. That's right, guys, going live today over on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and even Twitch for you guys today, as we're set to go ahead and get into the halfway point for this Moon Knight limited series so far. Listen, at this pace, I'm gonna need a season two. I really have loved the direction that the MCU has taken this particular series. I think the cast and the crew that they've managed to put together, the chemistry is unreal, man. I mean, this is the third episode in, and I continue to be really impressed with not only just the direction, but a lot of the scene selections, the shot choices and stuff. There's a really great scene in here, especially towards the end, where we've got Mark, or I should say Steven, with the constellation star chart map, if you will. I love the idea of seeing Steven and Layla in front of the camera, them holding up the star chart and having the camera sort of zoom in on it, if you will, with the light kind of illuminating through the paper to show the constellations and stuff. Just really great ways. That, along with the great editing, once it comes again to the split personalities, I just feel like the idea of the showrunner and how they've managed to want to put together this MCU series has felt as smooth as it possibly can for introducing us to a brand new character and really leaving its fingerprints and imprint on the MCU. So I'm absolutely loving what they're doing with this series in regards to making it rather unique from other things that we've gotten before. And Oscar Isaac, along with Ethan Hawke, continue to literally put their own stamp and fingerprints all over this. And it's really working for me, man. I'm absolutely loving what we've gotten so far. So 3 episodes in, guys. The halfway mark is officially here. In this episode, we got the opportunity to change locales a little bit. I am kind of curious when it comes to filming, if they filmed on location. There are some great sequences of some sand dunes out here. Arthur and his team kind of scurrying the desert, if you will. Those feel very much like on location shots. So I am kind of curious how much they traverse the world in order to film this. Was some of this stuff kind of done in studio with the technology that they have for the volume? It's really hard to tell these days, but if they did in fact go the extra step of giving us something practical and actually going to those locations, it looks beautiful, certainly on screen, to say the least. So we are seeing Mark, along with Steven and his personalities, going to Egypt here in this week's episode in order to continue to the search for Amit'S tomb. And that's really where we find our conflict in here, right? Arthur very much has the scarab, has located the tomb. Him and his team are digging to try and reveal it. Whereas on the other hand, we've got Mark along with Layla, who really have to kind of go off of clues that they can come together with. I believe there's another tomb in this episode, Sanuf. I can't remember the name of the other tomb that they have to find that maybe has or will lead them to Amit's tomb in here also. So we definitely found Mark on a little bit of an adventurer aspect here this week. And that's one of the things that I did appreciate about this episode. You know, narratively, we have followed Steven throughout the first 2 episodes and seeing what happens when Mark gets involved. So now to have that sort of the script flipped here, if you will, having us really see the world through the eyes of Mark and have Mark sort of take the spotlight here with Steven jumping in from time to time, I thought was a really great sort of aspect of switching things up just a little bit more. So I thought that actually really worked fantastically well in here, getting the opportunity to see Steven's shadow or his reflection in like the knife in the very beginning when we see Mark trying to kill some of the guys. Also getting the opportunity to see him have that conversation when he was searching the other tomb, right, where you see Mark, but yet in the background on the ceiling, you've got his reflection, and it turns around and it's Steven talking to him as they're trying to navigate their way through like Egyptian terminology and the idea of like, hey, Steven, you know, I really need you to come out right now, right? Like, you're the guy with the information here, with the knowledge sort of thing. But it does come to that balance, right, of how long can Mark stay in control? Can you give Steven control without him trying to run away, which we certainly have seen in this episode also. So I thought it was pretty fun. I really enjoyed the way that it was handled, whether it be in extremely tense situations to see Marc fighting for his life, and then all of a sudden he's given up control to Steven and he finds himself in someplace else entirely, like the cab going to the airport, as Steven clearly tried to talk his way out of it. I really enjoyed seeing that sort of side of things in here, and Marc and Steven really continue to squabble. But I will say one of the things that did surprise me in this episode was the realization. We had a moment in a scene in here where we come back to Marc's reality, and he's literally pulling a knife out of somebody's stomach that he wind up killing. Steven admits that he's not the one that did it. Marc clearly was not in his own consciousness and realized that he did it. So it feels very much like we are introducing ourselves here to maybe a third personality when it comes to the Moon Knight character. Now, again, while I'm not used to the comic books per se, the split personalities that I have been aware of was Steven. We also have Marc, two characters that we've been introduced to. There's also a third, and Jake Lockley, I believe his name is, Jake Lockley. So I am kind of curious if this a third personality or this mysterious person that's now influencing the actions of Marc and Steven in here. I do wonder if that's yet another personality kind of making its way out. At first, I thought maybe it was Khonshu. Maybe he decided, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and take matters into my own hands. But considering the fact of how we know Khonshu certainly works, the idea of it being another personality seems pretty plausible. So it feels like they are maybe introducing us to the Jake side of things, but we'll definitely have to see as this season winds up progressing. But I really did enjoy the Marc and Steven back and forth that we wind up getting in here. A couple honorable mentions in here. Rest in peace to the gentleman that played Anton in here, Jasper Ulile. I could be completely butchering his name, but if I did, Jasper Ulile is the gentleman that played Anton in here. Layla's connection, if you will, to the black market to go ahead and find that additional tomb. He unfortunately passed very shortly before, like after his filming and time on set, but before the release of this particular Moon Knight series. So I really enjoyed him in this week's episode. I'm not too familiar with his past work, so I did want to go ahead and make reference to him and bring him up a little bit. So rest in peace to Jasper, and just prayers to his family and him. And I thought it was pretty cool that they sort of dedicated this particular episode to him. It really, really worked for me in here. But getting an opportunity to see Mark Spector step up worked for me. Getting the opportunity to see his stuff with Steven really worked for me also. You know, one of the other aspects of this episode that really popped out to me too was probably the idea of finally getting to see the other gods in action. For me, I'm also trying to wrap my head around how Khonshu sort of works as an entity. So to kind of see the fact that these gods have other avatars that they're certainly using, how these gods had emphasized the idea that the avatars that they're embodying are just there to simply watch, right? That they're not getting their hands dirty, they're not getting involved in the lives of humans, if you will. And Khonshu sort of feels some type of way about that. He kind of feels like the gods left these people and completely abandoned them, if you will. Whereas so the gods kind of maybe felt not as, what do you call it, not as you know, don't feel like the people of Earth devoted their time to them anymore, didn't necessarily believe in them. And I feel like you can kind of see that in today's society, the idea of over the years, they maybe push away for some people from the idea of religion and being spiritual, right? And praying to gods and things like that. So the idea here that the other gods maybe felt some type of way about the evolution of humans, maybe didn't feel like they were needed, so took a step back. Khonshu feels that they abandoned humans, and Khonshu's like maybe the last line of defense, especially when you've got somebody like a Arthur Harrow, excuse me, an Arthur Haro, who's trying to reawaken Ammit and things like that, to be able to see Khonshu ask for a trial or call upon his other gods was really fascinating to me in here, because it does do two things. One, it goes to show you just Khonshu's relationship with what these gods used to be like. I think one of them mentions how close that they certainly were, and you can really see how much they've soured on Khonshu over the years. That Khonshu's not even keeping in contact with them anymore. Very much sort of separated from everything that's going on, and feels very much like the redheaded stepchild of the gods group, if you will. But I really love the showcase of how they present themselves as avatars. And for me, again, going back to Oscar Isaac's performance, the idea of him now having to embody Khonshu and speak like there's a god inside of you trying to come out. His performance alone, I don't know if that was Oscar Isaac's voice or if they used Khonshu's voice once again, but just his performance of almost like a human being trying to embody the power of a god, like it's straining his body almost to the point, so anytime he talks his body becomes erect and stiffens up. You can see the veins in his neck, as the force in which this god is trying to speak with him, the power, the energy, is coursing through him. And it seems as though at times after Khonshu speaks, just seeing the exhaustiveness on Marc's body, in regards to him trying to communicate, I just found otherworldly and just incredible, honestly. So the idea of when Marc says to Khonshu as he leaves, right? Like he summons the gods, but he leaves, and Marc's like, "Well, you're not coming there with me." And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll be there." You can clearly see what he means in the sense of, "Oh, I'll be there through you," to say the least. But it was a really great sequence, chilling, a little bit creepy to kind of see how Oscar Isaac represents that, in regards to how he speaks. But I loved it. I absolutely love this sequence here. And it seems as though, regardless, the gods certainly don't necessarily believe Arthur, or I should say, don't necessarily believe Oscar. And we do get to see that by the end of this episode. Maybe the gods are a lot closer with Arthur, and maybe, or at least maybe one of them is a little bit closer to Arthur than we certainly were realized or privy to, which could be one of the reasons as to why they're allowing Arthur to continue to get away with the things that he certainly has so far. But for me, getting to see the trial on hand, I thought really worked. It really goes to showcase the power of the gods in here too. And there was something else off the top of my head that I was going to go ahead and mention, and I can't remember as of right now. I thought the idea and the effect of the eclipse on the sun really worked too. I thought it was a great look also. And one of the other aspects of the episode I was a really big fan of, just visually, is just getting an opportunity to see Khonshu, or I should say Marc, using the power of Khonshu to rewind time, right? The idea of them finding the constellation, but having to find it exactly where it was thousands of years ago. So to be able to see Khonshu's ability and just visually seeing the stars streaking across the sky so fast to the part that they're literally just beams of light. And the fact that everybody else in Cairo gets the opportunity to visually see this, it looks stunning. It looked captivating as can be. And I absolutely love that sequence in here, so much to where, in order to get to Amit's tomb, we get to see Khonshu really sacrificing himself, if you will, knowing that this showcase of powers, especially to the everyday people of the world, right? The idea of showcasing your existence seems very looked down upon by these Egyptian gods here. But Khonshu's doing what he certainly needs to in order to find Amit's tomb before Arthur does. And to be able to see him working through Marc, just spinning the clouds like he's going, or spinning the stars like he's rewinding time, breathtaking to watch visually. It really, really worked for me. Let's see here. The action was incredible. I thought I truly loved this suit, both suits, honestly. The fight over at Anton's place I thought was incredible, where you see Moon Knight taking on a couple of the horsemen as well. Visually, special effects wise, I think his CGI cape can maybe get in a way a little bit too much for me. But as far as choreography goes, the suit, how it moves, the glowing of the eyes. It looks spectacular in here. And I thought the fight, especially at Anton's place, was absolutely great. And we even get the opportunity to see Layla showcased in here a little bit too. Her showing out, showing that she can certainly fend for herself. Her taking what I thought was a necklace, ripping it off and using it sort of like as a dagger or like two little knives, if you will. It was really cool to kind of see Layla get some spotlight in here. And speaking of Layla, I was also fascinated by the Marc and Layla stuff that we wind up getting in here, knowing that these two at some point in time were married in the process of a divorce. Also, I thought this episode did a great job of at least opening our eyes to Layla's past, the idea that it seems that she grew up in the Cairo, Egypt area. Her father was at least an archaeologist, sort of thing. We see them working on fake passports for her very early on. I get like Tomb Raider sort of vibes from Layla, somebody that was maybe raised in this world, knows the history of archaeology and the ancient, Egyptian culture and things like that. So to see that not only is she an archaeologist, doesn't mind getting her hands dirty, can fight. It feels very much like Layla's a version of Tomb Raider when it comes to the MCU that I'm actually a relatively big fan of. But I'm glad that we got the opportunity to kind of see them talk a little bit. We do get to find out from Arthur in here that her father was in fact murdered. It does make me also wonder what connection Marc has to it. Arthur is throwing out the accusations that Marc is keeping even further secrets from her. There is a part of me that's now trying to connect Marc to the death of Layla's father. Maybe I'm completely wrong in regards to that, but it feels very much like maybe that's what Arthur is hinting at. The fact that he's got such a dark secret from Layla that he's trying to avoid not having brought up whatsoever. It just feels like Layla is putting a lot of trust and hope in Marc just to continue to be disappointed, right? She has this great line in here where she says, it feels like I know you, but then I learn a secret and then I realize I don't know you at all. And for me, it's even trippier when you include the personality of Steven in here, right? Because when I look at Steven and Layla, I think to myself, like, these are probably personality traits that I think that Layla would probably prefer over Marc, right? Like, it does feel like the situation between Marc and Layla right now is as tense as it was. Who knows what their relationship was like when they first met each other? Clearly, they were lovebirds. I mean, we see them holding each other's hands, and clearly they were close at some particular point in time before things just went awry. But the way that Layla looks at Steven when he's in that body, his connection to the ancient mythology, or knows his Egyptian culture, shares in some of the same poets. Those are very much attributes that I think she very much wishes Marc certainly had. Although it is one of those things where, I am still trying to figure out who the main personality is in here. Like, I do wonder if the main personality is Marc, and in order to please somebody like Layla or impress her, maybe his mind wind up making a separate sort of personality that would sort of fit the things that she certainly enjoys and maybe makes him closer to Layla. I am finding it extremely fascinating, and really how far along Marc was into this split personality idea before he met Layla, or maybe it's something that popped up after they wind up meeting each other. It's just fascinating to me. I don't want to say it feels like a love triangle, but you can clearly see the differences when it comes to interacting with Layla between Marc along with Steven. And I'm really enjoying it here, as it seems as though these two characters reluctantly maybe want to get a divorce, but I think they just find themselves in such a crazy position in their lives where maybe it's best to just protect one another and just go our separate ways, even though there definitely feels to be like there's certainly something still there between the both of them. But this was a really enjoyable episode for me, man. Not only the traversing to another continent, the Marc and Steven struggle continues. The idea of Marc being in the person or the perspective here this week, and the struggle of seeing Steven try to come back and get his body. I was a big fan of seeing the other gods and the relationship between them and Khonshu really worked for me, along with the Marc and Layla stuff. But now that we've got Khonshu, who is in fact trapped after sacrificing himself in order for them to not only rewind the night sky, but locate the tomb, I'm kind of under the impression with Khonshu in the stone that they can't call upon the suits. Now, I could certainly be wrong, but we're gonna have to see what happens when it comes to the next couple of episodes here. But Moon Knight continues to impress, man. Whether that be Mister Knight, as Steven's trying to call timeout in the middle of a brawl, whether it's actually Mark in his mercenary role, if you will, in that particular suit, it definitely adds to that supernatural element of vigilanteism that I think maybe was kind of missing from the MCU a little bit. So now to kind of have them draw back the curtain and really get us introduced to a new set of gods, a new set of supernatural entities and magic and all that other stuff. I am really enjoying what we've seen so far. But listen, guys, these are just simply my A+ opinions when it comes to episode number 3. I want to know yours. What did you guys think of this particular episode? Let it be known in the live chat or the comment section below after this particular video streams. Comments certainly do help the algorithm for this particular show. And if anything, we'll definitely go ahead and continue to talk Moon Knight until next week's review. So we'll certainly see you guys next Thursday. And if there's anything that I missed, character moments, storyline details that you guys want to further go ahead and discuss, let's go ahead and do so, guys. So go ahead and subscribe to us. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit that bell notification so when we do drop brand new videos, you'll certainly be notified. Feel free to join us over on our Discord forum community. Link is in the description box below. But until then, guys, that's going to be it for us here. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.